Talking F1 with Steve, Neil, and the Gov. Hello again, my friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to a Wednesday. It's kind of a bit of a theme, this, isn't it? A Wednesday Formula One pit stop this week. I am the Gov, and I'm going to be joined by two wonderful people who absolutely know their Formula One onions. I am just here to introduce you to the circuit today and remind you this is live. We do encourage your participation. If you're a fan of Formula One, be that old, new, or returning, the live chat is there for you to get involved, have your say, ask any questions, put any comments, and raise any points you feel that we should be talking about that perhaps we haven't talked about. It's only 30 minutes long, this show, and it can be caught on all podcast platforms. Just search Talking F1 Fan Show Live. And as always, there's a live link for you to get involved and have your say. Now, I'm a new fan out of the three type of fans I mentioned. I'm brand new, so only it's my first. Is it my first proper season, or is it my second season? It's either my first proper season or it's the start of my second season. Steve's giving me the two-finger salute, so I'm hoping he's telling me it's the second season and not anything else, friends at home. But yeah, so I'm brand new. I'll ask the silly question, so do forgive me if you're an aficionado like my two compadres. But let's bring one of those in now while I battle with this light. Joining us, as always, is the aficionado of the F1 world. And I'm going to stick these lights on the wall one day. I absolutely promise you that. The aficionado, Stephen Thompson.
No, I think Bottas he'll be the one to really hold Alpha together.
And despite the intro, he's not a big Bottas fan. Aficionado Stephen Thompson, welcome, my brother. How are you?
I'm very well. Yourself?
I'm very well, thank you. Not too bad.
Yes.
Very quickly, it's not something that's often on the menu. Let's kick things off with you, with your state of Williams. I think something I might try and do every week is, I know you're a Williams fan. Neil, who will be joining us shortly, is a McLaren fan. I might just ask you for almost a state of address. You know, give us your thoughts on Williams' last race in a minute or less, and then Neil will give us his McLaren thoughts. But so, what is Williams? What happened? How did it go? And how has it left you feeling this week, Steve?
A little despondent. They were towards the back for most of the race and most of the weekend, to be honest with you. Alex Albon again got the better of Latifi in qualifying, but picked up damage in the race and dropped behind Latifi. Latifi almost went off on the restart. So it was a weekend again with no points for Williams. Disappointing, especially after a couple of solid results from Albon a few weeks back. It feels like a bit of a step back.
So this week you're not, you're a little bit not happy.
Yeah, just let down.
So today is Martin Brundle's 63rd birthday, Steve. Did you know that?
I wasn't actually aware of that.
Yes, according to this Reddit page here, 63 to Martin Brundle. And here he is, pictured in 1983 with, can you tell me who is in this picture with Martin Brundle in the year I just mentioned, which I forget, but here he goes. Can you tell me who that is?
I can't even see the picture.
Oh, sorry, I'm put on the screen. There you go. That would help, wouldn't it? There you go. Who is in the picture with Martin Brundle?
That's a very young Martin Brundle with a very young Ayrton Senna.
There you go. Two legends of the game, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. Two legends one more successful than the other one. Obviously, Ayrton Senna, multiple world champion. Martin Brundle didn't manage to win a race, but he was a solid driver in his time in Formula One. He had quite a lot of time in F1.
Did you know Brundle and Senna were fierce rivals in British F3?
I did indeed, yes. Yeah,
did you know Did you know it went down to the last race for the championship?
I was aware. Did Brundle get that, or was I imagining things there?
No, I think he did, yeah.
I know he got something in Formula 3. Yeah, I think it was Brundle that got it. But
happy times, though.
Yeah. I say he hasn't aged a day.
He hasn't aged a day. And after the Monaco Grand Prix, did you know, this is another a lovely little bit of graphic coming on the screen now, Max Verstappen equals Vettel's Red Bull podiums. Did you know that?
That's an intriguing statistic. Seb looks so young there.
He does. 65 each.
That's very good. The two most successful drivers for Red Bull. Absolutely. Obviously, Seb's got 4 championships. Verstappen currently just the one. But yeah, two very different eras at Red Bull racing.
Very much so.
Still very much the same
driver?
Team philosophy. Whichever way I answer, it's going to divide opinions, isn't it? Really. Better driver. Well,
go on. And those at home, let us know in the chat. Let us know in the review section of the audio platforms. Who's better, Vettel or Max Verstappen? While Steve contemplates that, let's go ahead and bring in his friend, somebody he can lean on, gain some advice from, and trust in all things F1 matters. Mr. Positivity, Neil Mole.
Yeah, but we're crap. We're not going to dominate any team.
Somebody who was ahead of the curve with intros that needed a good soundbite. Neil, welcome in. You're on mute for this time being. While you take yourself off mute, I'll ask you, Vettel or Max Verstappen, who for you is the better driver?
It's easy for me. It's Verstappen, I'm afraid.
Okay. It's easy for Neil, Steve. Is it any easier for you?
Yeah, I'm leaning towards Seb. Max. Seb has
Adam
got...
in the chat. Adam says Seb, but Max by the time he retires.
On paper, obviously, Seb's got the wins. He's got the championships. But I think there was less competition when Vettel was winning his races. You know, Verstappen's had to come through fighting a very dominant Mercedes team and Ferrari when they were strong in previous seasons. He's had to really push the boat out, whereas majority of the time Seb was in championship contention, it was Red Bull who were ahead of the rest. They were the previous dominant team. I love them both, to be honest. I don't want Seb to retire. I really hope he doesn't. He's not contracted for next year yet, but I really hope he doesn't retire.
Oh, well, that's it. McLaren then, Neil, before we come to this week's race, I asked Steve for his Williams' state of address after this week. What's McLaren in a minute or less? What happened? How did it go? How has it left you feeling being a McLaren fan?
Started off quite slow. McLaren weren't really going that well. And then Lando's just done what Lando does. Still not feeling fully fight and fit, and Ricciardo just does what Ricciardo's been doing of late.
Not a lot.
There's been a lot of questions over how long he's going to stay. And yeah.
It's tricky.
I'd love him to improve. It's just not seeming he ever will.
It must be a really exciting time being a McLaren fan right now with Lando Norris, who seemingly every race just gets better.
It depends who you talk to. I think he's a good driver, but there's many out there that just think he's overrated. He's just following in the footsteps of Ricciardo, is just the paddock clown, and yeah, it's just overrated. But I don't know what you guys feel.
Overrated?
I think he's part of a very special generation of drivers that are either already successful or coming through. You know, you've got the likes of, obviously, Max Verstappen, you've got Charles Leclerc, you've got Pierre Gasly, George Russell, Lando Norris. They're these young, successful, very good, very talented drivers. F1 is in very good hands. When Alonso, Hamilton, Vettel retire, because they're sort of the elder statesmen now, you've got all these incredible young guys that are only early 20s, one of whom has already got a championship. The others, I have no doubt, will be in championship contention before too long. I think they're all terrific drivers. Just some have got the car, some haven't,
There you go. I can't believe anyone thinks he's overrated. That's sort of knocked me a little bit back a little bit. I'm a little bit, wow.
He is outperforming that car.
He's one of the best drivers, British drivers, certainly at the moment. He's outperforming Hamilton. That's without a doubt. We've got some comments coming in. We've got Adam again. Seb never led the 2010 championship until the last race. Danny Ricciardo out. Gasly in for him. Would you be on board with that, Neil? A little bit of Gasly in for a Danny Rick? He's hesitating. He's not sure.
Well, it's like he's buffering, isn't it? Like his dial-up's gone wrong.
So you need that little colourful wheel that you used to get on the old Max.
Yeah.
The range of the rainbow. Are you there, Mr. Moles?
Evidently not. Can I answer that while he's waiting?
I think you probably should, Steve.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Take the reins, my man.
Danny Rick, I really want to see him do well. He's one of my favourite drivers on the grid. He's so likeable, and being likeable doesn't guarantee you, success in a seat in F1.
True, it doesn't.
But you've got to be a bit of a bastard sometimes, really. But he has that ability as well. He gets his elbows out. He puts the car where it shouldn't be, and it is such a shame to see him struggle. But you do think if McLaren do call time on his stint with the team, then Gasly's got to be one of the front runners, because now, obviously, with the news of Perez re-signing until 2024 with Red Bull, there's no seat at the top table for him there. You know, you've got Hamilton and Mercedes, Hamilton and Russell and Mercedes for this year, possibly most likely next year as well. Charles Leclerc, Carlos Sainz, they're contracted to Ferrari for quite a while. So there's not really a sort of top team that's got a seat coming up. AlphaTauri don't seem to have made much progress this year. They've gone a bit backwards.
Yep.
So, yeah, the next logical step for Pierre, if he wants to get out of that and try and get back to the front, would be a McLaren. And I'd be happy to see that.
Can you hear us now, Neil?
You're muted.
You're on mute now, Mr. Moles. He's having a good old time today, isn't he? There he is.
I don't know what is wrong with this platform, Martin, but it just I didn't even press mute. It threw me on mute. The headphones are not connecting. You went really quiet. You then disappear altogether.
You are a soundbite king. I don't know what's wrong with this platform. That again is just an epic soundbite that's begging for an intro. You can't have more than one intro. You literally just deliver soundbite after soundbite. There's many people across the internet now going, I told you what's wrong with that platform. I agree with him. Finally, something I agree with on this platform. But no, bringing it back to the F1 world very quickly. Danny Rick out, Gasly in for Adam Blamplate. Would you be yay or nay?
Last season, I would have bitten his arm off to have him at McLaren because he was driving really well. But this season, he's barely been better than Yuki Tsunoda.
Oh, what has happened to Yuki Tsunoda? Because he burst out of the gate last year, and now he's
doing okay. He's better than he was it's his second season. You can sort of expect it. Doing better than he was last year. It brought out one of the strangest moments of the weekend where he just clipped the barrier in Monaco and broke his wheel cover, and they threw a red flag for it, which is for no reason. They threw a red flag in quali, and obviously that's serious. I'm expecting to see a car stuck in a barrier or smashed to pieces or whatever, or even just stopped on track, and there's nothing. There's just a tiny bit of wheel cover. He's been good this year. He's been taking the fight to Pierre Gasly. I think, is he ahead of him in the standings? I think he might be at the minute.
I'm not sure. The two races Gasly, or apart from Monaco, I think it was, I think it was Spain was the last time I looked at the standings, and there were two races Gasly had finished ahead of Tsunoda, and they were the two races Tsunoda never finished. Other than that, every time Tsunoda finished a race, he was ahead of Gasly.
Yeah, he is. Gasly is currently 14th with 6 points, and Tsunoda is currently 12th with 11, tied with Daniel Ricciardo.
Which tells you how badly Gasly's doing for that to be the case.
Yeah, Gasly has been certainly 2020 and 2021 probably the driver, or one of the drivers of those two seasons, because how he responded after being dumped by Red Bull, to suddenly become a race winner with AlphaTauri and put himself back in the shop window. But I'd still take him at McLaren. I think he's still got it. He's still incredibly talented. He just needs a car, because that AlphaTauri does seem a bit unpredictable. Are
you at this point looking for a partner for Norris, just a complimentary piece? Like Lando, surely, is your runaway number one driver. He's going to be world champion soon, without a shadow of a doubt.
You can say soon, but it will only be the case if he's ever got a car that's worthy of winning a championship.
But as Hamilton's proven this year, that's the same with every single driver. You can go from Billy Big Bollocks last season to an absolute afterthought in a lot of races this season.
McLaren need to do something special to give him a car. If he's going to stay at McLaren, obviously he's contracted there now for the next few seasons, which is great news for McLaren, because he is their undisputed, he's their future, Even though they've got Danny Rick, who is a race winner, he has been, I think he was third in the championship in 2014, or maybe around that sort of time at Red Bull. He outperformed Seb in their only season together as teammates. He was comparable with Verstappen. He's a proven driver. But he's getting to the latter stages of his career, and Lando is their future.
I know people have said that he wasn't up to Verstappen when he was at Red Bull. I believe he was able to fight for the position, but Red Bull made it adamant that Verstappen was their man, so he was going to be pushed to number 2, in which is what we've seen ever since. So I think people accept the reason for him leaving there.
Yeah.
But they now question, why did he leave Renault at the time before it became Alpine? Because they were willing to really, well, they were paying him a good wage, and they were putting everything behind him being the main driver.
Because he was alongside, was he Ocon? I think he was at Renault. And I don't question him leaving Red Bull, because he's obviously, by that point when he left, he was getting on a bit in years in terms of an F1 driver. You've got these young guys coming through, your Norris, your Charles Leclerc, your George Russells. And he's not going to spend all of his time as a number 2, because Red Bull always have that tendency. It was Vettel's team, and then when Ricciardo comes on the scene, it's Ricciardo's team briefly, and then it's Verstappen's team. And it's obviously very clear that it is Verstappen's team. So I don't blame him for leaving, because he wants to push on and he wants to challenge for a title and be a number 1. Why did he leave Renault? Because they were just starting to get progress. Well, the 2020 season, he got a couple of podiums for them, and he was starting to get to grips with it. And if it had stayed, he could be sort of back to the old Danny Rick that we knew from maybe not the race-winning Red Bull years, but certainly his higher career time, season, years.
There we go. Look, Danny Ricciardo coming out of nowhere.
Didn't think we'd be talking about him tonight.
No, absolutely not. Well, I have got the wheel of talking points, just to sort of bring it back round to what you lovely guys have sort of thought tonight's show should follow. Just Danny Ricciardo chat came from nowhere. Thank you very much, Adam, for bringing it to the chat. You see, that shows the power of this platform, my friends. When you watch it live, you can put the comment that you want to talk about, and it suddenly becomes sort of the theme of the show. Danny Ricciardo taking over. So if you do want to watch us live, check out the social medias. We do update and let you know when we're going live on there, or we try our best to. If not, subscribe to Home Dressing Room on YouTube and hit the notification bell, and then you'll get notified every time we go live. But here are your 4 categories or 4 talking points. You've got another big crash for Schumacher. Should F1 go back to Monaco? Home heartbreak for Leclerc, because nobody saw that coming. Although it wasn't a different way than we all thought. Perez, Monaco, masterclass. I know where the boys want to start, but let's see where the wheel conjures up for today. Oh, it's home heartbreak for Charles Leclerc. Steve, kick us off, because it was in the stars, just not in the way we ended up seeing it.
We said previously that he's never even finished a home race at Monaco. He didn't even start the one last year. And it was there, wasn't it? He was pole position. He led away. He had a decent lead. The race was his. It was his for the taking. And Ferrari messed up with their strategy, which has become a running meme over the past few years. Ferrari on the pit wall, dressed up as clowns, always shared over YouTube and Twitter and Facebook when it goes wrong. Because it's only them that do that, it seems. They double stacked. They lost track position, both Charles and Carlos. And there's no way they're getting back past. And poor Charles had to settle for 4th place after being in complete control of that race. Any other circuit, he may well have got it back. But Monaco, I mean, I'm happy he finished. And it was sort of damage limitation because he was only 1 place behind Verstappen. Because I really want to see Charles Leclerc win this championship. But yeah, he was on the radio saying, there's no words. And he was in the interviews that Penn look at saying he was hurting so bad. And I just wanted to hug him. I really did.
At least he broke the curse, said Adam. And he did break the curse, Neil.
He broke the curse.
It wasn't what we thought Charles Leclerc would be doing come Sunday tea time. We thought, let's be honest, he'd be picking out bits of the car wing from a wall somewhere, because that's normally what happens with Charles Leclerc in Monaco. He clips something and something breaks.
Yeah, that didn't happen. He drove really well the whole weekend.
Yeah.
And he was unlucky that the team chose the wrong strategy and screwed him up, basically.
That qualifying lap was absolutely insane. And he was going quicker as well. He'd have beaten his own insane qualifying lap before Perez put it in the wall. But, yeah.
You've got to say, though, where was Verstappen this weekend?
I know that was. I think we're probably going to come on to that when we talk about Perez. I think that's the first time since they've been teammates that Perez has been quicker than Verstappen all weekend,
Yeah,
and there's
it is.
been no mechanical issues or retirements or anything for either driver. Well, apart from obviously the crash in quali, but for Verstappen, he's had a clean weekend, but he's been behind Perez. What was that about? Who saw that coming?
Apparently, Verstappen's dad was moaning that Red Bull favoured Perez.
Oh, you can shut up.
Did they? Do you think?
Yeah, no. Well, they had a strategy that favoured the guy in the lead of the race. It was Perez. Is what it is. It's Monaco. If it was any other track, he may well have dropped back again. But his defending at the end was insane. Perez was incredible all weekend. But yeah, Charles Leclerc just came home in fourth. And the frustrating thing was the top four were so close. They were literally nose to tail, but no one could get past. You know, you saw them have a couple of little sort of cheeky looks if they were coming down into the chicane after the tunnel or into Saint-Devote, the first turn, but couldn't get through.
Talking about couldn't get through, ask Hamilton.
Stuck behind Fernando. Oh, wow. And Ocon as well.
5 seconds a lap slower, Alonso was.
What was he doing? What was Fernando doing? I mean,
He
and
was
then
looking
after
after
a
his
while,
tyres, apparently.
he was looking out for his size extremely well, and then he just hoofed it and just went poof, and he was gone.
Yeah, he got on the radio. Alpine said that Ocon had his penalty, which shouldn't really have been a penalty.
No.
And he had to get on with it so Ocon could get 5 seconds, so he wouldn't lose any positions. But then I think Hamilton had either shot his tyres or decided to do the same thing as Alonso did earlier and just dawdle.
Yeah, it was very tactful, this race. That's why I love Monaco.
Talking of Hamilton, I've just seen an article from albeit Toto Wolff, so take it with a little bit of salt. But he basically he thinks the pendulum will swing in Hamilton's favour again, and that the improvements have been there. And after a string of unlucky situations, are things improving for the world's greatest Formula One driver, Steve, or is the pain going to continue for a little bit longer?
I'm not going to answer the thing about world's greatest. You know my thoughts on that.
Oh, I do. That's why I said it.
I don't know if things are improving. You know, they seem to make a step forward in Spain. They looked genuinely quick and very much sort of back at the front. But this weekend, George had the edge again. Qualified ahead, finished ahead. Obviously not helped with the fact that Hamilton was stuck behind the widest Formula One car in the world. But I don't know if it is, because it seems that car, regardless of who Mercedes are favouring over the other, George seems to be getting on better with that car than Lewis. He seems to be able to adapt to it better. It seems to be better in his hands. You know, I mean, you don't just become a terrible driver overnight. Lewis is still the same Lewis Hamilton, but he just doesn't seem as comfortable in that car. It's going to take some work.
Yeah, it's a big fall from grace, Neil, isn't it? I've, as a new fan, I've never seen it. The extent of how a driver can be on the cusp of winning a world championship and all the controversy that surrounded that, to now being held up by, as Adam calls him, Agent Alonso, who's still working for McLaren. But not in second, in the midfield. Like, it's just not even in second or third.
Hamilton still has a bit to go at this moment. For whatever reason, Russell seems to be outperforming him. Well, even this weekend, it doesn't seem luck. You know, Russell's done everything, and Lewis seems to have struggled a little bit. So, God knows what's quite going on in his head or whatever, but I imagine he'll be able to turn it around. If that car's worthy of winning races, he'll be there or thereabouts.
Muted.
There we go. Another talking point. Let's remove that one from the list. There's 3 left. Another big crash for Schumacher. Who wants to kick me off with that one? What happened for those that perhaps missed it, etc., etc.? Steve, go on. You go for it.
Yeah, it's getting a thing now, isn't it? He did it in Saudi. He's done it again in Monaco. He coming through the swimming pool complex, lost the back end of the car, caught the barrier with the inside and then just smashed into the barrier on the exit of the swimming pool. Car split in two, quite reminiscent of Grosjean's crash in 2020. You don't often see an F1 car split in two, and it's quite shocking when it does. So glad to see him out of the car. Split in two, yeah. The gearbox, the whole rear segment came away from the front. So the front with him in it, and the back of the engine is still there, but the rear wing, the rear tyres, the gearbox are all just bounced off next to him.
Holy shit.
So it's good to see him out of the car, and he was okay. At that exact moment, or a bit earlier, Kevin Magnussen, his teammate, had retired with car problems. So double DNF for Haas. So if anyone who's got Haas in your F1 fantasy, I feel bad for you.
He was the other side of the barrier. He almost, basically saw it. I saw him waving his arms around. Whether he was a little bit fed up that both cars were then out of the race. Because that Haas is quick enough to be scoring points every race.
Yeah, and it's getting concerning, isn't it? Because Magnussen is consistently up there fighting around the top 10, and Schumacher just can't seem to make that break into it. That they had progress in Spain, both cars in the top 10, but they left there with no points. And it's at what point do you have to start thinking about the future? I mean, he's still a young guy. He is still learning. He's only in his second season. He looks a lot worse this year than he did last year, because last year he was only fighting Nikita Mazepin in the same car, which was just so much slower than the rest of the field. Now he's in a car that it's proven it can fight for solid points. Kevin Magnussen was 5th in the first race. And he is still struggling to get it together. And it is concerning, because I really want to see him do well. It's great to have the Schumacher name back in Formula One, and I want to see it on the top step of the podium. Obviously not for a few years yet, but I really hope he can just find that final hurdle, because I get the feeling that when he gets a points finish, they'll start coming. It'll be like a weight off your mind, like it was with Russell. He finally got his, and then he got a few more after that. And I think it will be...
So the pressure is currently sort of on the shoulders, and once that's lifted a little bit, you'll see a better driver. Is it that case, Neil, or is it, let's be real here, this crash maybe aside, if his surname wasn't Schumacher, would he still be in contention to even have a seat next year?
I'm still not sure that's the case. There's been several drivers, even some that are still on the grid now, that aren't good enough to be there, but they're given adequate time, and I think Schumacher at this moment is being given adequate time. Yeah, he's underperforming, but I think it's basically, is this his third season now, or is it only his second?
Second, same as mine.
So yeah, it's harsh, but he's got to start performing. And at this moment, I don't believe it's just his name holding him there. He is still deserving of his efforts, but if it continues into next season, then I think you have to start questioning.
Okay. Talking of sort of safety, how did you both see the start of the race? I know that was something that sort of was a talking point. How did you see that? Because the safety car started the race, didn't it, Steve?
Yeah, apparently it wasn't 100% due to the conditions. There were actual technical failures and electrical failures.
The lights.
Yeah, so that's what delayed it. So everyone's thinking, oh, come on, myself included, come on, just start the race already. And it wasn't actually due to the weather, it was due to the technical failure, which I didn't find out till after the race. But I think it would have been good to get them going under a standing start, maybe, as opposed to a safety car start when it all eventually did kick off. I understand that you do need to be cautious. We've seen some terrible accidents in the wet and the dry in Monaco, but they make wet tyres for a reason. Use them to their full advantage, and you really see the field separate the skilled from the less skilled.
So, was it a needed safety car start for you, Steve?
No.
Neil, how did you see it?
It was only a needed safety car start because the lights were or the wiring to the lights was flooded. That's the only reason they done it, and we didn't know, or I didn't find out until after the race.
No,
so for me, it just seemed stupid.
Yeah,
but if I'm honest, is this any different from how it's been other seasons of late? As soon as there's a couple of drips of rain, instantly it's too dangerous to send the cars out. It's just the way it seems to be going.
We saw that with Spa last year, didn't we? The race that wasn't a race.
But at the end of the day, what do I know? Because if you ask many of the drivers on the radio, they're all crying, saying it's, they can't see. Oh, we shouldn't be racing, and like maybe the old style just doesn't exist anymore.
No, there would be other drivers out there, going back to sort of the Senna, Prost, Schumacher era that would be getting in that car and racing anyway. I know that you don't want to see a driver hurt. You don't want to see a fatality or anything like that, but there is a risk in Formula One. And I think that, it's always going to be part of Formula One. No matter how safe you try and make this sport, there's always going to be that element of risk. And I can't help but, get the feel that 20, 25 years ago, they'd still be out there, or they'd have gone out there racing. Because what they did, remember that 2007, the European Grand Prix, when every single car is sliding off the track at turn 1. And that was heavier. That was heavier than that, and they were just sitting out there, just going for it. That was brilliant.
Talk to me about Perez Monaco masterclass. Is what you said on the talking points. How did you see Perez's Monaco drive, Neil? Masterclass, Steve calls it.
Well, I love this because obviously my comments last week were, if that's the way Red Bull are going to be, Perez basically might as well not drive because he's never going to win a race. So he done the only thing possible and have a weekend where Max was absolutely nowhere to be seen in comparison, and basically it being Monaco, so no one can get past him once he's found his way into the lead. And
brilliant.
I'm not sure if masterclass is quite a term I'd use.
After I said that, I did wonder if it was the right terminology.
He had a solid weekend. Ferrari messed up, and he might have driven a few good laps, got himself into the position he needed to be, and then, like I say, strategy just played into his hands. From that point onwards, the race was his. Without, if there's no mechanical faults, there's nothing more he needs to do.
I think he did everything required. Obviously he had that crash on Saturday, which did put a blot on the copybook this weekend. But I think that'll be forgotten now. But he did everything required. He was quick where he needed to be quick. He was quicker than his teammate, quicker than the rivals. He had the car exactly where it needed to be, and he was there in that sort of ideal pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong sort of position, like he was in Azerbaijan last year. And
I see a lot of people saying he's back in the title fight. What are your thoughts?
My thought is, if I was Christian Horner, I would be taking a lot of ibuprofen because I would have one hell of a headache. Because Verstappen is obviously their boy. He's their champion. He's their number one. But Perez has really got to grips with this car. Last year, his first year in the team, and it was a car he wasn't 100% with. It was obviously clearly favouring Max. This year, they're both absolutely on it. And you've got two drivers who genuinely could be in this title fight. And I think it is going to be giving Horner a bit of a headache. Because he's only 6 points behind Leclerc now.
He is. I saw Horner say that there is no number one driver at Red Bull.
Rubbish.
I know. Funny what happened in Spain then.
Yeah.
I thought he was Pinocchio for a minute when I heard that, because I thought,
why do they say that? It's like when Wolf used to say about Hamilton and Bottas. Yes, it is, because you're always telling Bottas to get out of Hamilton's way. You're always telling Perez or whoever it is to get out of Verstappen's way.
So why do they say that? What is the
problem
point?
for Bottas, though, was every time he had a cracking qualifying and had every chance to win a race, he then had the worst start possible, lost places there, or he just put in really slow laps or burn out his tyres. He didn't. Yeah, at the end of the day, he didn't really help himself. But
he didn't.
No.
With Red Bull and Perez, they at every opportunity, other than this weekend, they won't let him easily pass Verstappen, and they asked him to jump out the way as soon as he can.
we are running over a little bit of time. So as much as I do love listening to both of you to talk about F1, and I do, it is nearly 8 o'clock. I am live again at 8:30. So just to round up today's show, at the top of the show, we had Adam say F1 without Monaco isn't F1.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to come to the last point on the wheel, and that is, should F1 go back to Monaco? Steve?
Yes, absolutely. Because it's one of the most famous races in the world, and you need it to win the Triple Crown. Monaco Grand Prix, 24-hour Le Mans, Indy 500, Triple Crown. Indy 500, by the way, well done to Marcus Ericsson, former Sauber and Caterham F1 driver, won the Indy 500 the other day.
I watched it afterwards.
He was fantastic, wasn't he? I mean, considering he was Charles Leclerc's teammate, he was absolutely wiped clean by Charles Leclerc. He's done very well. So well done to Marcus Ericsson. But yeah, F1 should go back. It's the jewel in the crown. It's one of the most famous races in the world, in one of the most famous locations. The racing hasn't been brilliant now for a number of years, but when this new generation of cars are getting smaller, it could well be better. And now they can follow better. It has been slightly better, even with the lack of overtaking. But yeah, F1 should absolutely go back.
Okay. You think it should go back? I say it should go back because I've been to the Monaco grid. I've walked the grid, and I've been around the track. So I 100% say it should go back. It's the only place I can say I've been to in regards to the F1. Neil, are you a big fan of Monaco? Or do you think, you know what? Forget this jewel in the crown bollocks. Bin it off.
It's a tough one. It almost has to be there. Us F1 fans, we love our history and all that sort of thing. And as far as that goes, it's nostalgia of always being a part of it. But whether it's to be believed that Monaco has its own TV coverage and its own sponsors, and it's making it tough on being part of the grid next season or in the future. So there are lots of question marks on whether it's ever going to happen again. There have been words it's only a matter of agreeing a contract. But as I said, that F1 want to have more control over it. Whether they'll get that, unlikely probably. But the track needs changes. It doesn't, other than qualifying, it doesn't really. It's one of the only weekends where that final shootout of qualifying, you absolutely see them throwing the cars around there. It's amazing, but it's the main bit of the weekend because 9 times out of 10 the race isn't all that.
I was going to say it's probably the only weekend on the calendar where this qualifying is better to watch than the race half the time. Hopefully, when the cars are getting smaller again, the racing will get better. But I still want to see it go back purely because I love my F1 history and I'm passionate about the old days in Formula One. I'd love to see it go back because it's historic, and it's a Grand Prix that every driver wants to win. Your home race and the Monaco Grand Prix.
Okay. Love it. Absolutely love it. Got a few comments. Matt Stannard, welcome in, brother. I'd like to get rid of Monaco. Worst circuit ever. Good for when cars were smaller or make it wider, which obviously would be very difficult given the location and everything. And Matt agrees with Neil. Took the words out of my mouth. Steve. There you go. Job done. Matt has just joined us. Jump back to the start. If you've just joined us as well, jump back to the start and watch 38 minutes of absolute F1 goodness. I'll leave the last word to Steve. Neil, I'm glad you sorted out your technical issues. Join us again on Monday, 7:15. Steve, last words to you, my friend.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for commenting. Always great to see. Love the chat. It was going very well tonight. So back on Monday, 7:15, usual time slot. No Grand Prix this weekend, but we'll be looking ahead to the following week when we head back to Azerbaijan. So 7:15, and yeah, thank you very much again for watching tonight.
Talking F1 with Steve, Neil, and the Gov.